Salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's video. In it, I'm going to go over the top 25 options at the quarterback position. This is specially designed for those in 2QB and Superflex leagues to get you all the information you are going to need to make the best decisions you can. It is week 12 coming up. Every decision we make is going to be critical in helping us get to and hopefully not miss those playoffs. As we make our final push, we want to do our due diligence, and I'm here to try to help you do just that. I'm also going to cover my top 15 kicker options in week 12. Guys I think are going to give you the best opportunity to get some points on the board at one of the most variable positions in all of fantasy football. Last week was one of the toughest weeks at the position for quarterbacks. This week, though, things open up a little bit. A lot of good matchups and under the radar ones that you might be able to take advantage of. Before we hop into it, if you're brand new to the channel, Relentless Press drops content Monday to Saturday. I'm doing 10 plus videos every single week. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you do not miss anything. Crush that like button if you get halfway through the video and find yourself enjoying it. And without further ado, let's hop into week 12's quarterback rankings. I'm going to remain adamant that Josh Allen is still the QB1 in fantasy. I have him here against Detroit. I know he had his worst output of the entire season against Cleveland, but that will not matter against the Lions this week. I think Allen explodes in a get-right game against one of the worst defenses in the league. You cannot tell me that he has not heard the chatter about all his turnover issues. That will change starting here. Patrick Mahomes is my next man up. He has now owned this spot in 3 straight weeks and is on an epic tear over the last 2 months. Los Angeles is not going to be able to move the ball much without Matthew Stafford. Right now, it is looking like he is not going to be able to go, so I think the Rams defense is going to tire out, and when that happens, Mahomes goes crazy. To number 3, and it is Jalen Hurts, who was able to get it done on the ground against the Colts. He racked up 86 yards rushing and also scored the game-winning tutty with his legs. He has not fallen outside of the top 6 in 4 straight games. He will continue that streak against the pack. Lamar Jackson is my 4th ranked quarterback. He could certainly use another weapon or 2 right about now, but he continues to make it work somehow and some way. I am betting that he gets back into the top 5 for the first time since back in week 3 with this matchup against the Jags. Joe Burrow rounds out my top 5. He went nuclear for his 3rd overall quarterback finish in the last 5 weeks, mind you, and he now gets a Titan secondary that's allowing the 3rd most passing yards and passing scores. Expect big things to happen here for Joe once again. At the top of tier 6, I have Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to try and make it 4 straight finishes in the top 4 against a Houston team that is allowing 13 points a game to the position. I think Miami stays hot coming out of this bye week, but I do not think that they're going to have to air it out much in what should be a blowout win for them. So Tua is going to settle for a top 10 finish. In at number 7 is Kyler Murray. Obviously, this comes with a caveat. He will be a good option against the Chargers if he is good to go, but that hammy injury seems to be lingering, so we need to keep our eyes posted for updates that come in the next few days. He's got a kickoff in the 2nd window, which is better than Monday night like it was last week, but it is still not ideal, so he could give us fits once again as owners. In the same game, other side of the field, Justin Herbert is next at 8. He finally made it back into quarterback 1 range with that solid performance against the Chiefs, and now he gets Arizona. They allow top 5 numbers in both points per game to quarterbacks and in passing yardage. They've surrendered the 5th most passing scores on the season as well. Herbert has a big game incoming. Geno Smith is at number 9. He is going to be able to continue keeping it rolling against the Vegas Raiders. They allow over 21 points a game to the position, which is 2nd most in the NFL. Geno has thrown for 550 yards in his last 2 games, so his first 300-yard performance since way back in week 4 is not out of the question. To round out my top 10, and at the top of tier 3, I have Dak Prescott, who had no problems carving up the Vikings. He was supported by that more than elite running game. Dak has not dropped out of the top 10 since back in week 7. I think he might struggle a little bit against the Giants, but I'm going to stick with him until he shows us reason not to. At number 11, I have Tom Brady. He was finally able to toss multiple passing scores prior to the bye. That was his first time doing that since way back in week 4. I have been saying this for a couple weeks now. That much is sure. But I think coming out of this bye, another week of prep, I think the Bucs come out as a different team. Brady starts carrying for that playoff push, and I think this is the beginning of that change. My last quarterback one of the week is Jimmy Garoppolo. He exploded in primetime, throwing 4 scores en route to that overall quarterback 5 finish. Pretty unlikely that you can still get him on the cheap, but Garoppolo does have an incredible schedule down the stretch. He is a big and easy buy as the current quarterback 20. I think he keeps it rolling against the Saints here. They allow over 17 points a game to the position. My lucky number 13, and we'll have to see how that works out, is Justin Fields at 13. Now, he is considered day-to-day with an injury to his non-throwing shoulder, so we're going to have to keep an eye on his status and see how the week progresses. If he is able to go, I think he is more solid than spectacular in a tough matchup with the Jets. Marcus Mariota is at the top of tier number 4. He continued his unlikely season against the Bears, finishing as the quarterback 13 for the 2nd straight week. He gets the Commanders this week. They've allowed the 6th most passing scores on the year, so maybe even Mariota is going to be able to throw for more than 1 tutty in this one. Trevor Lawrence is my next man up at number 15. He is making his way, slowly but surely, as becoming a solid play each and every week. He's been a quarterback 1 in 4 out of his last 5 tries. And the Ravens have also been pretty generous to the position. They allow top 10 numbers there. The last time that Lawrence did not take advantage of a solid matchup like this one was way back in week 1, so I love his chances once again of putting up a solid stat line. Daniel Jones headlines tier number 5. He could not get the job done for his team on Sunday, but fantasy owners didn't care whatsoever as he was the overall quarterback 3. I think Dallas makes it really tough on Jones in this game, so we're going to lean on his rushing ability and hope that New York can keep him upright. In at 17 is Captain Kirk Cousins. He mailed it in like the rest of my Vikings did against the Cowboys, and I think there's plenty of reason for concern that another elite tandem at defensive end is going to give him fits. I don't think Cousins kills you like he did last week against Dallas, but I also think the floor is a lot lower than owners would like. Jacoby Brissett is up next at 18. He lit up the Bills. Last week he posted a 300-yard performance, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and that gives us hope for a decent showing against this tough Buck defense. They say that lightning does not strike twice, but as a top 18 finisher in 3 straight, you can feel solid starting him here. At the top of tier 6, I have Matt Ryan, who came all the way back down last week as predicted, but that should not be the case this week against the Steelers. They just gave Joe Burrow the overall quarterback 1 finish, and Ryan has been a top 5 guy, surprisingly, in 2 out of his last 4 games. Now, I know that seems greedy, but I think he definitely has top 10 upside here. Derek Carr rounds out my top 20. He was finally able to break the 300-yard barrier for just the 2nd time this season and the 1st time since way back in week 3. It is very tough to play in Lumen Field, so I really don't like the matchup, but Carr has also made it 3 straight games with a pair of passing touchdowns, so there is reason for optimism. At 21, it is Taylor Heinicke, aka Mr. Bud Light. He has struggled in his tough matchups against the position, but he has shown an ability to pay off in plus situations. That is what he gets here against the Falcons. They allow nearly 20 points a game to the position that is 7th most in the league. In at the top of tier 7 is Russell Wilson. He couldn't even muster a solid performance against Vegas, so I do not think that there is any reason to think he turns it around against an underrated Carolina defense. He's thrown just 3 touchdowns in his last 5 games. At 23 is Davis Mills, who looked very dreadful for most of the game last week against the Commies, but he did save my faith in him last week with a late rushing score. I think he remains just a decent floor play, but the Dolphins have made a habit out of giving up big plays to quarterbacks, so his ceiling comes into play for the first time in a month. My last quarterback to in week 12 is Ryan Tannehill. He has been a top 10 guy in 2 straight games, but I think he gets a reality check against the Bengals here. Cincinnati allows under 14 points a game to the position, and the Titans are going to try to pound it into oblivion to keep Joe Burrow and company off of the field. The last quarterback I have is Jared Goff. He's about as desperate of a play as you can get. He has back-to-back finishes outside of the top 20. However, there is a silver lining here. The Bills have allowed over 700 yards through the air in the last 2, so if Detroit's offense can catch fire, a solid day is certainly in the realm of possibilities. A couple quarterbacks that just missed the cut for this week is the Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston combo. Whoever decides to play for New Orleans this week, Kenny Pickett didn't quite make it, and Zach Wilson. Now, before I get into my kickers, great time to remind you guys, crush that like button if you are enjoying the content. Means so very much to me, and it helps get the channel out to those who maybe have not seen it yet. A big shout out to all of my subscribers. The engagement, the support that I've received for you guys is greatly appreciated. And now let's hop in to kickers. My first man up is Tyler Bass, who paid off my ranking of him last week, finishing the tops at the position. The Lions cannot stop anybody, and Buffalo's offense is clicking. So as long as they don't score just touchdowns in this one, I think Bass will put up another solid day. Harrison Butker is up next at 2 against the Rams, and at 3 is Justin Tucker. He travels to Jacksonville to take on the Jags. Brett Maher headlines tier number 2. He bounced back in a big way with a number 2 finish last week, and that should continue to be the case here against a bend but don't break Giants defense. New York has allowed nearly 9.5 points per game to kickers. No one is stopping Dallas's running game, so this seems like a match made in heaven. At 5, I have Jake Elliott, high-scoring Philly offense against the Pack, and at 6 is Ryan Succop against Cleveland. To 7, it is Evan McPherson traveling to Tennessee in that matchup with the Titans. Into tier number 3 we go, and Daniel Carlson is up next at 8. He travels to Seattle. He has been a top 10 finisher in 2 out of the last 3 weeks, and the Raiders are going to have to score plenty of points to keep up with a potent Seattle offense. Carlson also hit 2 50-plus yarders last week, so if your league gives bonus points for that, he will capitalize on that as well. Graham Gano is up next. He is in at number 9, traveling to Dallas. And to round out my top 10, I have Nick Folk against Minnesota. Tier 4 starts with Jason Sanders. I want all the Miami players on offense I can possibly get. Sanders is the foot that is benefiting from the ridiculous output they are putting out week in and week out. Houston also surrenders 9 points a game to the position. This is a smash play outside of the top 10. At 12, I have Jason Myers against Vegas, and at 13, it is Younghoe Koo traveling to Washington. Robbie Gould is in at 14, he gets New Orleans, and the last kicker I have ranked is Ka'imi Fairbairn. He travels to Miami. Couple guys that just missed the cut include Will Lutz against San Francisco, Mason Crosby, as well as Matt Gay. And that is everything for the quarterback kicker video in week 12. Make sure you drop your comments or your questions down below. I love being able to engage with you guys. It's one of the main reasons that I make this content. And by talking back and forth, we can get better together. And that is what it is all about. Drop a like if you haven't yet. Subscribe to the channel so you do not miss a thing. This is Relentless Press. I am your host, Abram Opats, and I will see you next time.